Welcome to Sumita Roy's English classroom. I'm Professor Sumita Roy. I find that many of you are very interested in easy English. So here is another video on easy English. This time, we're going to talk about storytelling. Storytelling is a wonderful way of learning a language. First, listening to the story, understanding the story, and then repeating it yourself in your own words, with your own ideas. Sometimes you can change the story with your own imagination also. I'm sure all of you know many stories which you can easily narrate in your own mother tongue. Given a chance, you can tell that story in your own language. Now, what you have to do for beginners, level 1, you can translate sentence by sentence from your mother tongue into English. Even if you make mistakes at the beginner's level, it is not a problem because we learn by making mistakes. If you feel that you will learn without making mistakes, that is not possible. So, for beginners, using two languages is very nice. Your mother tongue, which you already know very well, and English, which you are trying to learn. So, if you have a story which is very small, say 5 or 10 sentences, then take each sentence and translate it. But for getting the correct English, that is the second level, where after narrating the story, maybe making mistakes in the structures of English, you need to improve. That is where I'm giving you the videos on grammar. The grammar videos are a little tough and they might be very boring because many students feel that grammar is not interesting. But while you're telling a story, you need that grammar. Now, I'll tell you today a simple story. I will simplify it as much as I can, but it is a famous play by a dramatist who is world famous, and he is William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was one of the greatest dramatists of all times. He was writing in England. Since England is where this language originated, let us begin with William Shakespeare's play. The title of the play is The Merchant of Venice. So look at the title. Venice is a place in Italy. If you see pictures, you will find that people travel from house to house in small boats, which are called gondola. You get so much information about Venice. And then who is it? The title character is a merchant. Merchant is a businessman, a person who has his own business. So, Merchant of Venice, we have. In this way, you analyze every part of the story till you get the actual grammatical points also. That is the first learning which you're doing. So, I told you the name of the author is William Shakespeare. Since it is a drama, we say the name of the dramatist is William Shakespeare. Now, this is a very long play. It takes many hours to enact on stage. But I'm not going to tell you all that because this is a video on easy English. There are many characters. Characters are people who act in this play. We have it in movies also, different people playing different characters. I'm not going to mention any of the numerous characters. We will only take 4 characters who are important in this play and narrate the story from the point of view of the action of these four characters. Because in a story, we have characters, we have action, and that is how the story progresses. We understand the story by listening to it. So the title is The Merchant of Venice. Now, you remember in nouns we had merchant is a common noun, Venice is a proper noun. We are saying the merchant because article, I will make one whole video on article, you will know. This is a definite article pointing to that particular merchant, one merchant. His name is Antonio. You need not bother about the names, but I'm telling you the names. In case you have the patience and the interest, you can read the entire play, but it is English, which is not very easy to understand today because it is more than 400 years old. Now, the word merchant and Venice are two nouns. They have to be joined. And I told you that usually a preposition is used. So we have the preposition of. The title is The Merchant of Venice. That is how four words meaning that a place and a person are represented in this drama. So you can see how you can learn grammar just by looking at these four words. You can also learn pronunciation by looking at these words. We are pronouncing the merchant, we are not saying the merchant because the is used in different places. I will tell you about that also. We are saying the merchant, and I'm putting more stress on merchant. I'm saying the merchant of Venice. I'm putting the maximum stress on the second word, which is a noun, and the fourth word, which is also a noun. So, pronunciation, you can easily learn. This stress pattern is there in advanced pronunciation, which you have to watch. Because even if you're at the beginner's level, you can watch advanced pronunciation when you want to improve your pronunciation, when you want to tell a story. That is why I'm going step by step in this video. Vocabulary also we learned because we know merchant means businessman. If you have a problem with the word merchant, then we know that it means something as simple as a businessman, a person who sells and buys and makes money out of this. Now, Venice also we saw that it's a place in Italy and it's a place which has, waterways, water roads, and we learned a new word, gondola, which is a small boat in which they travel from place to place, house to house. Now we come to the story. Already we know one of the people, and that is Antonio. Antonio has a very good friend who is Bassanio. So the name of Antonio's friend is Bassanio. Now, see how I'm telling you the story in simple sentences constructed according to the grammar which is to be used in English. So we can say Antonio and Bassanio are two friends who live in Venice. Antonio is a merchant whose ships travel all over the world selling many things. So he is a merchant who has ships. He's a very rich man. And all his ships go and sell many things. So this we call as cargo. Cargo. So you're learning spelling also. So cargo ships he has. And when he sends them, they come back with all the money of the things which he has sold. Or he comes back with things from other countries and they sell it in Venice. Bassanio also was very rich. We can use the word here, affluent. Affluent means very rich. Affluent. So Bassanio was rich at one time, but now he has no money. But his friend Antonio is rich. Bassanio wants to marry, and this is the third character I'm mentioning, Portia. Her name is Portia. Bassanio wants to marry Portia. She is rich, and therefore he needs money to go to the place, that's another city, Padua, and there he has to, uh, show that he's well off enough to marry a rich lady. So Bassanio comes to Antonio and says, I need some money. Will you please lend me some money? He tells his whole secret that I want to marry Portia, for which I need the money. I hope the story is clear till now. You see how we are using nouns and pronouns. We are using many primary auxiliary verbs. All these grammar items are already there in the channel, which you can watch many times to get this. Antonio is in need of money because his ships are away and he cannot immediately lend money to Bassanio. Antonio says, I'm your friend. I would love to give you money, but at present my ships are all away and I do not have money. Then he gets an idea. He says, we can take money on a loan. We can borrow the money from a money lender. So they go to a money lender. This is the fourth character which I'm introducing, Shylock. So now we have all the four characters. Antonio, who's the merchant of Venice, Bassanio, who's his friend, Portia is the lady Bassanio wants to marry, and Shylock is the money lender from whom Antonio plans to take money to help his friend Bassanio. Both friends, Antonio and Bassanio, go to Shylock. They ask Shylock. Now, see, I'm using the word they, which you have seen in the pronouns. They ask Shylock to lend them 3,000 money in their currency, not in our currency. Every country in the world has different currency. So this is ducats. He says that 3,000 ducats I want. Shylock, who's very rich, he's a money lender, so he's very rich. Now, see, I'm using relative pronoun, that is pronoun lesson number 3. Unless you see that, you will not get the correct usage here. Shylock, who's very rich, agrees to give the money. He says, oh, yes, I will surely give you the money, but you have to give some surety. Antonio says, I have so much to give you as surety. Don't worry, I will give you whatever you ask. I want my friend to get the money because he's going to get married. Shylock says, no, it is very simple. I want 1 pound. Pound is a measurement like kilograms. 1 pound of flesh from your heart, closest to your heart. I want 1 pound of flesh. Bassanio is shocked. He says, no, don't agree. Antonio laughs. He says, don't worry. In the time when he wants, I think he gives 3 months, all my ships will be back and I will be very rich, so I can give him 10 times the money he wants. You don't worry, you take the money. Bassanio feels bad, but finally he takes the money and goes and marries Portia. But while he's there, Antonio suffers a loss. His ships do not come back safely because in sea there are storms. We call the storm in the sea as a tempest. Some of you have written in the comment box that we want some words for vocabulary. Now, see, I gave you the word affluent. Affluent means very rich. Now, tempest. Tempest, it means a storm in sea. Not a storm on land, but a storm in sea. We also have the word cyclone. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. So, a tempest gives Antonio losses. Now, the day has come when he has to give that 1 pound of flesh. Now, if somebody cuts 1 pound of flesh, obviously he will die, he will not live. But he is willing to sacrifice his life for his friend. He says, I don't mind dying because I love my friend, but before dying, I just want to see him once. They go to the court of law because Bassanio is not going to allow his friend to sacrifice himself. But in the court of law, Shylock says, look at this paper they have signed, and they have said that if Antonio cannot pay the money, he has to give me the pound of flesh. The Duke, who's the ruler, says, yes, it is written there. I cannot do anything. Antonio, get ready to give the pound of flesh. Shylock is very cruel. He takes his knife and he starts sharpening his knife. Suddenly, Portia comes, but now nobody knows she's Portia. She's dressed as a lawyer. She says that I would like to argue this case. And the argument she does is, first she tells Shylock, be kind, don't kill this man. Now he has got the money. Although the date is over, he can easily pay you the money now. Everybody will help him to pay you the money. But Shylock says, I don't want the money. Already the due date is over. So give me the pound of flesh. After pleading with him, pleading is to say please. Many times, the lawyer, as Portia is dressed as a lawyer, says that please forgive him, please do not take his pound of flesh. Shylock says, no, I will take the pound of flesh because he has some enmity, past old enmity with Antonio. I'm not telling you in great detail. I will do that if I do a literature lesson on the Merchant of Venice. I will tell you all the details. But today I'm doing it for easy English. So when Portia, who's the lawyer here, says that, he's not going to be kind, let me tell you something. Now she talks to Shylock. She says, in your note, which they gave, the promise which they gave of 1 pound, it is written that you will take 1 pound of flesh, but it is not written that you will take a drop of blood. So you are allowed to cut 1 pound of flesh from Antonio, but in case even one drop of blood comes out. Now you can imagine, if you cut even 1 small centimeter of your flesh, so much blood comes out. So even if one drop of blood comes out, all your properties will be taken over by the Duke. The country will take everything which you have. Now you go ahead and cut that 1 pound of flesh. Shylock gets very scared. He says, no, 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 I don't want to cut the flesh. And then he is given a punishment by the state because he was so cruel. He was trying to kill a person. Therefore, he's given a huge punishment. Of course, the story is much more than this, but I will stop here. You can see from this story, which you listened to, that there were two friends, Antonio and Bassanio. Antonio was a merchant and he was rich. Bassanio was a rich man earlier, now he needs money. So he asks his friend because he wants to marry Portia. Antonio lends him money by borrowing from Shylock and signing a bond saying that he will give 1 pound of flesh if he can't return the money. But he never thinks that he can't return it. Bassanio goes and gets married, but he hears that Antonio is going to die because he could not pay the money. His ships were wrecked. It's called shipwreck. Again, another word. So the shipwreck made him a poor man, and now he's giving 1 pound of flesh. Portia comes here, saves Antonio by saying that you can cut the flesh, but you cannot take a single drop of blood. It's a story which teaches us that we should have mercy, we should have kindness, we should have generosity. It also teaches us the value of friendship. See how great the friends were. Antonio was willing to sacrifice his life for Bassanio. Bassanio left everything and came running for Antonio. Bassanio could ask Antonio for money. Unless you're good friends, you cannot ask for anything. So, all this we learn. Try to say this story to your friend or to yourself. Many of you say, we don't have friends. No problem. Stand in front of a mirror and tell the story to yourself. Make some changes in the story because you can have your own imagination. You can have your own ending. You can change the story completely because your aim is to practice English. Your aim is not to tell the story as Shakespeare told it. Your aim is to improve your English. Stop at each level of the story. First, I told you the story in great length. Then I made the story into just a few sentences. So you have now two versions of the story. Use them in order to improve all the skills of language, your communication. There is nothing to read here because I have not put a slide. I'm putting a slide where explanation is necessary. Here I'm only speaking, and you can learn all the things. Pronunciation is there throughout. In every video, I'm pronouncing all the things which I want to say. So if you look at the pronunciation videos, here is your practice. The other videos are your practice. The pronunciation videos are your learning of pronunciation. Many people, especially those who are working in corporate firms, those who are working, a young girl wrote that she has been transferred from India to US, and there she's finding it difficult to use the language. So you need to learn grammar, pronunciation. The learning videos which I'm putting here, because I said this is a classroom, this is for improvement. It is not for quick English. It is not for, 1 minute English. That is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you a good foundation, but periodically, since all of you found the easy English very good for you, I have put another video. I was supposed to do verbs, but the modal auxiliary verbs, but I thought before doing that, I can tell you a story. We have used many verbs here which are modal auxiliary. Antonio thought he could pay. Now, Could is a modal auxiliary. Bassanio said, "May I borrow some money?" May is an auxiliary. Shylock said, "You must sign the bond." Must is a modal auxiliary. So, this lesson we will learn immediately in one whole video. We have used it in the story, and we have to learn, if we make mistakes, how to avoid those mistakes. That is why there is a balance. In some videos, you are just practicing, like in this one. In some others, you are learning to improve yourself. Because if you go on practicing, you can never correct your mistakes because you'll be unaware of your mistakes. First, you must know that this is the right one and these are the mistakes I'm making. If you become conscious of your mistakes, then you become better. Many beginners are saying that give us simple sentences. I have always used in all my videos in the past, also what you have seen on YouTube, maybe for the last 15 years. The English is very simple. For those who want to learn the language, I don't need to use an English which is very complicated, which has very tough vocabulary or very long structures. In the English classroom, I will make many videos on literature. I will make a general video on language through literature, how language learners can learn from these literature videos. But when I'm making literature videos, I will use a vocabulary which is much higher, a structure which is much more complicated, because that will be for teachers of English, people who are doing their MA or higher studies in English. But those will be very useful for learners of English also, because we have to keep elevating our level. First, we are at the basic level. We cannot be happy at this level. We have to move a little. We have to move a little higher. And then you keep going higher and higher till your English is excellent. You have to speak this excellent English by practice. That is why in the earlier video also I said this. Now I'm repeating this. If you're sincere and you want to learn, devote an hour or two per day. Maybe you sleep a little less. Maybe you take a little time out of your free time. Maybe you do other things a little less. And then you have enough time. Out of 24 hours, 1 or 2 hours is not much. But this 1 or 2 hours practice will improve your English every day. You don't have to wait for a week or a month or a year. You will find an improvement every day if you practice an hour or two every day. The day you don't practice, you don't get any improvement. So decide that you want to be a sincere learner. Follow the things which I'm telling you in all the videos. Although there are, grammar videos, pronunciation videos, I'm giving you many instructions in all the videos. So please follow those, and then you will find that there is a lot of benefit which comes to you by learning English, because English is useful in your life, professional life, personal life. If you have a hold over English, you get that kind of, uh, you know, impact and respect from people. People are impressed by you because you speak English well and you're able to communicate exactly what you want. You also feel a satisfaction in yourself. You gain confidence. Don't worry if you don't have friends to practice. Please practice with yourself. Please practice alone, sitting in one corner and practicing it on your own. It should be no difficulty, so that tomorrow, when you go out into the world, into your job, or into your college, you will be able to communicate with everyone in English. Doesn't mean you should forget other languages. You can learn many languages. In India, all of us know at least 4 or 5 languages very well. So there is no limit to learning languages. Please continue, please practice, and become better in English. That will be a wonderful thing for me. I'll feel happy that you are watching these videos and becoming better. Thank you and all the best.